It actually absolutely blew my mind what they were doing on set. And that was the moment I knew, I'm like, this is the most awesome thing you could ever do. And people are getting paid to do this as a career.
Hi, I'm Jenny Cooney, film journalist and host of the podcast Aussies in Hollywood. I'm excited to bring you NFSA Presents Inspired, conversations with some of our top Aussie creatives in front of and behind the camera about talent, craft, and ambition. I'm thrilled to have our guest, Chris Pang. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Jenny. Hey, did you just call me a top talent of Australia?
I did. You know, one of them, you know.
Thank you. You're too kind.
Well, you know, people in Hollywood know you, so that says a lot, you know.
Yeah, you know what? That's a weird one. That's a weird one that people here, I get recognized, and I get a lot of people saying, oh, you made it in America. And weirdly enough, it doesn't happen as much in Australia. I don't know what's going on. Maybe people just don't think that I should be in Australia. Most people don't know I'm Australian, for one.
Well, they're going to hear the accent and, you know, that'll help.
That'll help, yeah.
You're too good, Chris. You do too many other accents.
Yeah, that's it. Let's go with that.
So let's start with your first or most influential cinema memory.
My first and most influential, you know what, it's probably, I mean, the first time I went to the cinema was to see Willow with my parents, but the first Australian film that I watched and I enjoyed was Gallipoli. So I got to watch that as part of history class, and I have a feeling my teacher just sort of, like, he'd get bored or he'd have nothing to teach, and he'd put Gallipoli on and we'd watch a bit of it every class. But I watched that movie in history class, and I remember thinking that, I was young then, but it was the first time I felt like I watched a movie and I was learning something. It was educational and it meant something. So it's a very touching, moving story, and it's such a beautiful film. But I guess when I watched it was the first time I was like, oh, films are actually, like, even films based on real stories are actually pretty cool. That was the first time I thought that. Before that, anytime I saw based on a real story, I just immediately turned it off as a kid. So I think that was the first Australian film that I really enjoyed, and that was special to me.
So what films, music, stories do you go back to often, and why?
Am I supposed to say Australian stuff? My favorite film is Terminator 2.
Good.
I love Terminator 2. I know everything about it. And it was definitely the film that I went back to over and over again as a kid. And you know what, comes to think about it, I shouldn't have, I think that's rated R, right? I should not have been watching that as a kid. But me and my younger brother, who's 5 years younger than me, we used to, that was the one that we put on every time we didn't want to eat lunch and we were slow, we put that on, and then by the time we got to the T1000 getting his head blown open, we'd probably have finished dinner. So that's still to this day my favorite film.
Yeah, it didn't have to be Australian, by the way, but if there is an Aussie film that's something you've watched more than once.
Otherwise it would have been Tomorrow When the War Began, obviously.
Obviously, because it's a great cast.
Because it's yeah, they did a good job on it.
Okay, so do you have an opinion on what the secret sauce is for Australian cinematic success? A theory?
You know what it is? So I moved to LA in 2013. So I've been here for a second, and I think I do know what it is. It's the fact that for some inexplicable, unknown reason, Americans love the Australian accent. I have no idea why. Like, it's so ordinary to me, and in a lot of cases quite ugly. But as soon as you open your mouth here, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're Australian?" And it just blows their mind. And the fact that we can just switch and do an American accent, it's like a magic trick. They love it, and that might be, for me anyway. I'm an actor. I don't know about all the other, like, high level film stuff, but as an actor, I think that definitely helps. That's the secret sauce for actors.
And do you think Australia's punching above its weight internationally for such a small country?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you just got to look at the Olympics. The Olympics just finished, and it's like, how many gold medals did we win? And per capita, we're pretty awesome. So I think it's like it carries across to film as well. It's like our population is not even the size of California, LA County, and yet everybody can name a famous Australian. So yeah, I think we're doing pretty good. Pat on the back, Australia.
So when you reflect on your career, what does ambition mean to you?
Ambition. I think ambition to me is ambition is getting to set early in the morning, 5 a.m. call time. You're there tired as hell, and then you get a tiny break during filming, and you go to the crafty, like the food area, little snack area, and you find that like a gaffer or something is just eaten all the Snickers. It's always a gaffer, yeah. It's like eaten all the Snickers bars, and there's only like Kit Kats left, and so now you have to survive the rest of the day with Kit Kats, but you still go back onto set and do your scenes. That's ambition.
Okay.
Got to be pretty motivated to finish the rest of the day. It's a tough life. Making movies is not easy.
I think Australians have a hard time with this question because ambition seems like a dirty word in Australia, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Which is sad.
We got like the tall poppy syndrome. It's like we like to cut each other down and keep each other humble. So yeah, I think ambition, like you said, it can be seen as a bit of a dirty word, but I think it's a beautiful thing. Without ambition, we wouldn't achieve anything.
I totally agree. And I think that's, part of the series is about sort of just being celebrating.
You know what? That might be a better definition of ambition. It's being inspired to achieve.
Being inspired.
That's what ambition means to me.
I like that. So you mentioned the gaffers before. What elements of filmmaking in the craft side of it, besides what you do, is something you're particularly fascinated by? Is there another job that in another life you would have wanted?
On set?
Yeah.
You know what? The first day I got onto set, I came onto this Aussie indie film filmed in Melbourne called Book of Revelation. It was my first time on a set, and I was there as an extra. All I had to do was walk through these train doors, and I was there at 5 a.m. I was there the whole day just walking through these train doors. But it actually absolutely blew my mind what they were doing on set. It was the morning, daytime. They had blocked out one of the tunnels to become nighttime, and they had these spinning things that looked like lights on coat hangers to make it look like they were shining lights past us. And the train looked like it was moving. And that was the moment I knew. I'm like, this is the most awesome thing you could ever do. And people are getting paid to do this as a career. Honestly, even down to like the best boy role, like how cool does that sound? It just, being on a film set is just awesome. You know what, even down to the guy that you in the background, you don't even see. There's one guy who's responsible for carrying all of the footage of the day and transporting that over, some DIT guy. And you think he's just transferring footage, but he's holding all of the day's work. Everybody's pay that was on set that day is on that, and that's what he's holding. Like, even that's so cool. But I think for me, the DOP job is the one that I would love to do or learn more about if I wasn't doing acting. I think that the director of photography brings the look of the film, adds the beauty, and I think that's what makes something go from moving pictures to moving poetry. So I love the DOP role.
Great. So what does the National Film and Sound Archive mean to you? You have movies that are there archived forever for future generations.
Yeah, that's the one. That's true. I mean, you know what, I think film's so important to us culturally, because it really encapsulates what's happening at the time. It's like the socio-political, cultural snapshot of that moment. And I think, and it's an important part of history. So if film is a snapshot of that, then the National Archive is really keeping our history. So it's a history book through pictures and movement.
Is it
and
important?
That is important.
Good one. I was going to, actually, that was my question, I was going to say, is it
yes,
important?
Is the answer. Yes,
is it
it's
important to collect it, preserve it, restore it, and also to inspire the next generation, maybe?
Yes. I'm gonna lock in my previous answer. Yes. To all of those things. I mean, yeah, I think it's important to keep a record. I love history, and I love learning about what we are trying to figure out and ask questions about what we don't know. And we only don't know them because that history was lost. And so I think it's important for us to preserve our story. And like you said, for the next generations, because we're making progress. And it's always lovely to know how far we've come.
Yeah.
That's a freeway. That was a motorbike.
So now, who currently inspires you? Who do you think should be on the radar of the NFSA or Australia that we might not know about yet?
They should be telling me who I should keep on my radar.
Well, I suspect you've probably worked with some young Australians that are up and coming. Some people might have heard of them.
The people that come to mind are just my peers, because I've been fortunate, I've been lucky, and I've been able to be part of big projects and get my name out there. But there are so many Aussies in Hollywood that are on their way, or that are, also working, that just don't seem to, for some reason, have the link back to Australia. And people are like, oh, that guy's Australian, that guy, I didn't know. So like people like Jordan Rodriguez, I saw him the other day. He's doing great things. A lot of people don't know he's Australian. Remy, he is Australian. Even Ronnie Cheng, you know who he is. But people don't know he's Australian. So I think it's really nice to highlight the ethnic and diverse talent that we have that's out there, because Australia's not all white, and people need to know that.
I love that you said that. The NFA is opening an exhibition, Australians in Hollywood, celebrating the craft, talent and ambition of Aussies at home and overseas. Why do you think it's important to celebrate?
Important to celebrate.
And what do you think there is to celebrate?
Oh, there's a lot to celebrate. Okay, so when I was a kid growing up in Australia, we had like 3 or 4 people that we were real proud of that we knew was Australian. There was like Kylie Minogue, and then now I'm showing my age. Who's the crocodile? Paul Hogan. Everyone's like, oh yeah, he's Australian. Mel Gibson, and it's like just these household names that we're real proud of. They're like, yeah, they're Australian. Now Australians are everywhere. Like we have infiltrated Hollywood. We're everywhere. I go to casting rooms and I'll get told to go home as a joke. People are pretty friendly here, but they'll be like, oh, you're Australian, you guys are taking over, go home. They're stealing all our jobs. Like we're everywhere. So and we're infiltrating. We're kind of awesome. So I guess it's celebrating us taking over. That's why it's important, because we're taking over.
That's something to celebrate. You're right.
Yeah.
So did any Aussies help you in your early days in Hollywood?
Yeah, well, I mean, I started in Australia because I didn't come over here with having done nothing. My first film in Australia was Tomorrow When the War Began, and Stuart Beattie, the writer and director of that, is just the gentlest and kindest human being. And so I think I owe him my career, and I'm talking to you guys now because of him. He was just lovely and absolutely the reason. So he helped me. he kind of guided me, took me under his wing, taught me how to write, he taught me everything. So definitely owe a lot to him. And also one of my best mates, Dennis. Dennis is, again, I met him on Tomorrow When the War Began, but he is talking about ambition. He's ambitious. This guy will go for something and he won't stop until he gets it. And he's organized. He has one of the most organized Google calendars I've ever seen. It's like, it looks like a rainbow. It's like Tetris, right? There's just blocks and colors everywhere. And he works so hard. And he really inspired me to make the transition to LA. And he moved before me, and kind of, I don't think I'd be here without him either. I moved kind of with him, but like just after him, so that he could set everything up. And it was all ready by the time I landed. So them two definitely helped me and inspired me.
Great. So last question, what is your advice to Aussies dreaming of Hollywood?
Oh, my advice is don't sleep on the J1 visa. So the J1 visa is a cultural exchange visa that allows you to go to America, and you can go to Hollywood and try that whole thing for a year and work without any problems. So no visa problems. That's pretty. That's my advice.
That's great
advice. Don't be limited.
Chris.
Okay, don't be limited. Don't lose the dream. All the inspirational stuff, because one of the things I felt was a hurdle, pretty big hurdle, is that there's a big sea in between us and Hollywood, and like that's where you ultimately want to go. You want to go to Hollywood, you make American films. And I'm from Melbourne, the corner of the world. It's so far away, it just felt unobtainable. But as an Australian, I think we are a very fortunate and affluent country. We have the means to learn and go out and have time to study film and to be good at what we're doing. We have the opportunities to travel. And so I think just don't ever stop, I think is the advice that I would give Australians, because we can make it.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Chris. And thanks everyone for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode of NFSA Presents Inspired.
Thanks, Jenny.